It feels like everywhere you look these days, anxiety and depression in young people are just constantly in the headlines. It's definitely got me thinking, and I know you've been digging into this too with all those articles you've been sharing. It's like Gen Z is facing a whole new set of challenges.
And the thing is, this goes way beyond your typical teenage angst. We're really talking about a total generational shift here. And honestly, it's playing out in a way we really haven't seen before.
And that's exactly where Jonathan Haidt's work comes in, right? His book, Generosissimus, or The Anxious Generation, as it's translated to Till, it feels like he's really diving deep into this in a way that a lot of people aren't. He doesn't shy away from the hard questions.
No, he doesn't. And the excerpts you sent over, it's fascinating. He doesn't just go, oh, well, social media is the problem and leave it at that. He's going way deeper, looking at how this generation interacts with the world in a totally different way.
It's almost like they've been given this incredible toolkit, you know,
Mm.
the internet, smartphones, all of social media, but without any real instructions on how to use any of it safely.
That is such a good way to put it. Haidt calls it the Great Rewiring, and he's arguing that something major shifted, and it was right around 2012 or so. And it wasn't that the world just suddenly became a much more difficult place overnight. It's more about how this generation, the one that's grown up with smartphones and social media, how they experience the world, how they deal with it, it's different.
Okay, so it's not that things are objectively, measurably worse now than they were, say, 10, 15, 20 years ago. It's the filter, right? How this generation is experiencing all of it.
Exactly. And he uses this really striking metaphor in the book. He says Gen Z is basically the first generation raised on Mars, which when you think about it, their communication, their access to information, even just their social interactions, it's all seen through this digital lens.
Raised on Mars, that is a powerful image.
Yeah.
It really hits home how different their experience of growing up is compared to any generation before.
It really is. And I think it's a really useful framework for understanding why we're seeing this drastic rise in mental health issues among young people.
So we're talking about this generation growing up on Mars, which is such a powerful image, seeing the world through this screen that previous generations just didn't. But it sounds like Haidt is saying there's more to it than just, well, technology, right?
Absolutely. He says there's this whole other factor. It's less obvious, but it's totally connected to tech. The fact that free play has basically gone extinct.
You mean like kids just running around outside, using their imaginations, making up games, all that?
Exactly. That unstructured time, the unsupervised stuff that used to be the foundation of childhood. Haidt says we're so obsessed with safety now, like we need to protect kids from every little thing that we've accidentally taken away this crucial developmental experience.
So you're saying by trying to protect kids, we're actually making them more vulnerable? That's counterintuitive, but
Yeah,
it makes a weird kind of sense.
it does, right. And Haidt uses this analogy of inoculation. He's talking about free play, almost like it's a vaccine, but for anxiety.
A vaccine for your mind. That's kind of brilliant.
Right. Think about it. When kids are playing freely, they're always running into these small risks, these little challenges, right? Maybe they skin their knee falling off their bike. Maybe they have a fight with a friend and got to figure it out themselves. These seem small, but they build resilience. They learn to handle uncertainty and setbacks.
Like they're building their mental immune system or something, learning how to bounce back without falling apart.
Exactly. But if kids are shielded from every risk, if there's always an adult hovering, making sure they never fail or feel uncomfortable, well, they never learn those skills. Then when the bigger challenges hit,
Sure.
they don't have the tools.
So we've got this generation raised on Mars, seeing life through screens, and they're not getting that inoculation of free play to build up resilience. And you're saying this is all part of this mental health crisis.
It's huge. And it connects to what Haidt calls the opportunity cost of a childhood spent glued to a screen.
Okay, break that down for me. Opportunity cost. It sounds very economics class.
It is, but it really helps explain this. Every choice we make, right, it has a cost. Not always money, but what we're giving up to do that thing instead.
So like if a kid's spending hours on social media, that's time they're not doing other stuff that might actually be good for them.
Exactly. Haidt's point is these kids are missing out on crucial real-world things. Talking face-to-face, making friends, learning how to deal with social situations, even just being bored and having to figure out what to do. These shape our brains, our social skills, how we handle the world.
This isn't just a theory though, right? Didn't he mention something about actual research? Like a study linking early smartphone use and mental health stuff later on?
Yeah, there was. They found a link between how young a kid was when they got a smartphone and how likely they were to have anxiety and depression as teenagers. It's complex, obviously, tons of factors, but the research suggests that if we can delay smartphone use, it could really help their mental well-being.
It's wild to think about how much those everyday things, just hanging out, talking to your friends without being glued to your phone, how much that actually shapes you when you're young.
Yeah.
But speaking of social media, that's something I worry about a lot, especially for girls.
Oh, it's a huge concern. Hate actually spends a ton of time in the book really breaking down how social media impacts girls differently than boys. And it's not even just about how long they're online, it's how they're using these platforms, the stuff they're seeing, all of it.
It's funny, I was listening to that Olivia Rodrigo song, Jealousy, Jealousy,
Yeah.
the other day, and it just hit me, how much that feeling of not being good enough, how common it is, and how social media just throws gasoline on it, especially for young women.
Totally. That need to compare yourself to everyone else, to show this perfect life that probably doesn't even exist, it can really do a number on you. Hate actually lists 4 main reasons why social media can be especially bad for girls.
Okay, I'm all ears, lay it on me.
First, there's the whole visual thing, right? The constant stream of perfectly posed pictures, those highlight reels, everyone's life looking amazing. It's a setup for feeling inadequate. Like, you're not good enough, not pretty enough. Hate even quotes this 13-year-old on Reddit. She says, "I literally can't stop comparing myself to other girls. It's so bad, I've thought about killing myself because of it. You see these girls, you don't want to look how you look, but no matter what I do, I'm still ugly, I still feel ugly. All I do is cry about it."
Oh, man. That is just heartbreaking. Hearing it put like that, it really hits how intense these feelings are for girls.
It's rough. And it speaks to the power social media has on young people, how you see yourself, your self-worth, all of that. So that's the first thing. The second reason hate brings up is cyberbullying, which unfortunately tends to be way more common among girls.
It's like, because it's online, people feel like they can say whatever, do things they'd never do face to face. And for girls, who are often raised to care more about relationships, social dynamics, that online cruelty can cut deep.
For sure. And then you've got this thing called social contagion. Basically, emotions are contagious, especially negative ones. They spread like crazy on social media.
Well, right. So if a girl sees her friend feeling down, it can trigger the same feelings in her, and then it's this whole downward spiral.
Exactly. And because girls are often encouraged to be more open about their feelings, more likely to look for support online, they might be more vulnerable to this kind of emotional pile-on.
Like a negativity domino effect.
100%. And then, last but definitely not least, there's online predators. He makes a good point that girls, especially younger ones, they're more likely to be targeted by these creeps online. People who take advantage of that need for connection, wanting to feel validated.
Ugh, it's scary, honestly. Makes you realize how important it is to talk to your kids about online safety, about the dangers of talking to strangers.
Couldn't agree more. And while it's essential to understand the unique challenges that girls face, it's crucial to remember that this isn't just a girl thing. Boys are battling this too, just often in ways we might not see right away.
Right, it's not a contest. It's more like this great rewiring is hitting everyone, just showing up differently. So what's Hate's take on what's going on with boys then?
He uses this push-pull analogy to describe it.
Push-pull. Okay, you've got my attention. Break that down for me.
So the push, Haidt says, is that a lot of the traditional ways of being masculine, physical strength, working with your hands, all that, they just don't carry the same weight in today's world. So boys are growing up with less clarity on what's expected of them. That can be seriously confusing.
So they're being pushed away from those old school roles, but then there's a pull too, right? Something else drawing them in, like into that digital world we talked about.
Right. And that's the thing about the online world. It offers this intensely stimulating, immediately gratifying stuff. Video games, online pornography, places where they feel competent, where they're in control, even powerful, in a way they might not in the real world.
It's almost like they're looking for an escape, right? Like the digital world is a way to avoid how complicated and uncertain the real world feels.
100%. But here's the danger, these escapes, they can take over. You get social isolation, trouble making real friends, and a total disconnect from the challenges and also the rewards of real life.
It can turn into a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
Then the more you retreat into the digital world, the harder it is to function in the real one.
Exactly. The silver lining here is that Haidt doesn't just dump all of this on us and say, good luck with that. He's actually got some really solid solutions, things we can do now to make things better.
Oh, thank goodness. So what's the game plan? How do we start to turn this thing around for this generation?
He suggests we need a multi-pronged approach. We got to deal with the societal stuff and the tech stuff all at the same time. One of the biggest things he pushes for is for governments to step in and create a legal duty of care for minors online.
A duty of care? What does that even mean?
Basically, it would mean that tech companies are legally responsible for protecting kids from harm on their platforms. Think of it like the UK has this age-appropriate design code. It forces online services to make sure kids' well-being and safety come first.
So it's like saying, hey, if you're making money off young people, you have a responsibility to keep them safe online the same way you would in any other business that deals with kids.
Exactly. And it's bigger than just damage control. It's about encouraging good online habits, limiting access to content that's not right for their age. That's why better age verification is so important to hate.
Makes sense. Because right now, any kid can lie about how old they are. It's way too easy.
Right. But hate acknowledges that technology is only one side of the coin. We can't just slap on some regulations and call it a day. We need to address free play, or the lack of it. We've gotten so overprotective as parents, that needs to change.
Okay, but how do we actually do that? It feels like everything is scheduled now. Everyone's scared of every little risk. How do we get back to letting kids just be kids?
Hate really likes these things called play clubs. Basically, it's giving kids time and space for unstructured play where they call the shots and adults don't interfere. There's this great example he gives of a school. They started this Let Grow Play Club, and the results were amazing. Kids were more creative, their social skills got better, they were less anxious. It's about trusting kids to figure out their own thing, to take risks, to mess up and learn from it.
It sounds so simple, but it's like that's the missing piece. Giving kids back that unstructured time, those chances to just be kids that could be what helps with this anxiety epidemic.
It really could. And the most hopeful part of Hate's work is that he genuinely believes we can change this. It starts with us, though. Parents, teachers, people in charge. We've got to make different choices, fight for a world where kids can do more than just get by, where they can actually thrive.
So to bring it full circle, if Gen Z is growing up on Mars, like Haight says, it's up to us to help them navigate this new world, give them the tools and the strength they need, not just to survive, but to really thrive. We need to find that balance. Technology can be amazing, but we need healthy boundaries too. Kids need real-world connections, chances to learn and grow in the real world.
That's such a great way to put it. Raising a generation that's tech savvy, absolutely, but also resilient, connected to the digital world, yes, but grounded in the real one. That's the sweet spot.
It's a tall order, but
Yeah.
I actually think we can do it. So to everyone listening, we hope this deep dive into Jonathan Haidt's work has given you something to think about. Hopefully even sparked some ideas about how you can have a real impact on the young people in your life.
Even small changes can make a big difference. More conversations, healthier boundaries around tech, making sure kids are getting outside to play, it all adds up. We need a shift in mindset. We have to get back to the things that are essential for a healthy childhood, the things we've maybe let slip away. That's how we empower this generation to face the world with confidence, ready for anything.